I made a list of everyone I had ever wronged and spent a year apologizing to all of them. Here's what actually happened. I want to start by telling you that I am not someone who apologizes easily. Not because I am arrogant, I do not think I am arrogant, though I acknowledge that arrogant people rarely think they are, but because I was raised in a household where apologizing was treated as a form of weakness so subtle and consistent that I did not recognize it as a lesson until I was well into my 30s and paying someone $140 an hour to help me unlearn it. My father was not a cruel man. He was a proud man, which is different, and the distinction matters for everything that comes later. He believed that a person who apologized frequently was a person who made frequent mistakes, and that a person who made frequent mistakes was a person who had not been careful enough, and that carelessness was a character flaw rather than a human condition. He did not say these things explicitly. He modeled them. And I absorbed them the way children absorb everything, completely, without consent, and in ways that took decades to fully surface. My name is not important. What is important is that I am 39 years old, I have been in therapy for 4 years, and 18 months ago my therapist said something that started what I can only describe as the most uncomfortable and necessary project of my adult life. She said she thought I was ready to start making amends. Not in a formal 12-step sense, I am not in recovery, though I have my own relationship with avoidance that functions similarly, but in a sense of going back to the specific moments in my past where I had caused harm and had never acknowledged it, and doing the work of acknowledgement even when, especially when, it was no longer required of me. Even when the person had moved on. Even when the damage was old. Even when saying sorry would cost me something and give me nothing except the knowledge that I had finally said it. I told her I would think about it. I thought about it for 6 weeks. Then I made a list. The list had 11 names on it. People I had wronged in ways that I had never properly owned. Some of the entries were large, a relationship I had ended badly enough that the other person had reportedly not dated anyone for 2 years afterward, a friendship I had abandoned at a moment when the person needed me most, a professional situation where I had allowed someone else to take blame for something that was mine to own. Some were smaller, a cousin I had humiliated at a family gathering with a joke that had gotten a laugh from everyone except her, a neighbor I had reported to our building management for a noise complaint I had exaggerated because I was stressed about something else entirely and needed somewhere to direct it. All of them were real. All of them had been sitting in me, in the specific place where unfinished things sit, for longer than I wanted to admit. I decided to go in order of difficulty, easiest first. My therapist suggested the opposite. I went with her suggestion. The hardest name on the list was a woman I will call B. We had been best friends from the age of 14 to the age of 26. 12 years. The kind of friendship that contains entire versions of yourself, the adolescent one, the young adult one, the one who is figuring out who she is going to be and needs someone to witness the figuring. B had been that person for me for 12 years and I had ended our friendship in a way that I had spent 13 years calling a mutual drift and that I knew, if I was being honest, was something I had engineered because it was convenient for me and because I had never had the courage to say the thing I should have said instead. What I should have said, at 26, was that I was struggling. That I was in a period of my life where I felt suffocated by the person I had been in my early 20s and that the suffocation was not her fault but that being around her reminded me of a version of myself I was trying to leave behind and that I did not know how to be her friend and also become who I was trying to become. What I actually did was become gradually less available, less responsive, less present, until the friendship had thinned to the point where its ending was a formality rather than an event. I told myself she had probably barely noticed. I knew she had noticed. She had tried, several times in that final year, to reach me in the specific way of someone who can feel a person pulling away and is hoping that trying harder will stop it. I had let her try and had not tried back and had eventually not responded to a birthday message and that had been that. I found her on LinkedIn. She was a landscape architect, living in another city, married with what appeared from her profile to be a full and complete life. I stared at her profile picture for a long time. She looked like herself and also like someone I would not know if I passed her on the street, which is the particular sadness of watching someone you used to know completely become a stranger through your own inaction. I wrote her an email. I rewrote it 9 times over 4 days. What I finally sent was the truest version I could manage. I told her that I had been thinking about the end of our friendship for a long time and that I wanted her to know that what had happened was not a drift, it was a choice I had made, and that the choice had been selfish and cowardly and that she had deserved an explanation I had been too afraid to give her. I told her I was not writing to reopen anything or to ask for anything in return. I told her I just needed her to know that she had not done anything wrong and that I had known that at the time and had let her wonder anyway, which was the part one was most ashamed of. I told her she had been a remarkable friend and that the failure of our friendship had been entirely mine. I sent it on a Thursday evening and then I closed my laptop and did not sleep well for 4 days. She responded on a Monday morning. The email was 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph said that she had not expected to hear from me and that reading my email had brought up a lot of things she had thought were long settled. The second paragraph said that she had spent a significant amount of time in her late 20s believing that she had been too much, too needy, too present, too intense, and that she had carried that belief into subsequent friendships and relationships in ways that had cost her. She did not say that I had caused this directly. She did not need to. The third paragraph said that she appreciated me writing and that she accepted the apology and that she hoped I was well. It was a generous response from someone who had every right to give me nothing. I sat with that second paragraph for a long time. The specific detail of it. Too much. She had spent years believing she was too much because I had been too cowardly to tell her the truth, and the truth was that she had not been too much at all. She had been exactly enough and I had been unable to meet her there and I had let her blame herself for my limitation. I cried in a way I had not cried in a while. Not cathartic crying. The other kind. The kind that does not resolve anything but that is at least honest about the thing that has been sitting there. I wrote back. A short response. I told her specifically that she had not been too much. That she had been a good friend and that the problem had never been her. That I wanted her to know that clearly and I hoped it counted for something even at this distance. She did not respond to that one. I did not need her to. The second name I went to was a former colleague, a man I will call Patrick who had been on my team at a job I held in my early 30s. Patrick had made a significant error on a project we had both been involved in. When our manager had asked what had happened I had not lied exactly. I had simply answered the specific questions I was asked in a way that directed attention toward Patrick's role and away from my own, which had been equally implicated in the outcome. Patrick had been put on a performance improvement plan. He had left the company 4 months later. I had stayed and been promoted 18 months after that. I had not thought about Patrick in years until he appeared on my list and then I thought about him with the specific clarity of someone who has run out of excuses for not thinking about something. I found him through a mutual former colleague. He was working at a different firm, same industry, apparently doing well. I did not have his contact information and could not find a personal email. I wrote him a LinkedIn message knowing it was an imperfect medium for what I needed to say and saying it anyway. I told him what I had done. I told him that when our manager had asked about the project I had answered in a way that had been technically accurate and substantively unfair and that I had known that at the time and had chosen my own protection over his. I told him I was sorry and that I had thought about it more than he probably knew and that I hoped his career had not been materially affected by something that should have been shared between us rather than landed on him. He did not respond for 3 weeks. When he did his message was 4 words. It said, I figured as much. Nothing after that. No acceptance, no rejection, just 4 words that told me he had always known and had been carrying the knowledge alone the way I had been carrying the guilt. I am not sure which of us had the worse end of that. I am not sure it matters. I will not walk you through all 11. Some of them went better than I expected and some of them went worse and one of them, the cousin with the joke at the family gathering, looked at me when I brought it up at a subsequent family event and said genuinely, with complete sincerity, that she had no memory of it whatsoever, which was its own particular lesson about the weight we assign to moments that exist only in our own accounting of ourselves. What I will tell you is what the project did to me over the 14 months it took to complete it. It made me tired in the first month in a way that felt like the tiredness of something opening that had been closed for a long time. It made me angry in the second and third months, not at the people I was apologizing to but at myself, at the accumulated evidence of a person who had spent decades choosing comfort over accountability in a specific, respectable way that leaves no obvious wreckage but builds up a sediment of small failures that eventually becomes the floor you are standing on. It made me lighter somewhere around month 5 in a way I had not anticipated and could not fully explain to Daniel when he asked what was different about me. It made me careful in a way I had not been before, not guarded, careful, about the moments happening in my present life that might end up on a future list if I was not paying attention. The last name I contacted was my father. He is 71 and still proud and still not a cruel man. I did not apologize to him. He did not have an apology coming. What I did was tell him, for the first time, what the lesson of our household had cost me. Not accusatorially. As information. As the thing I had learned about myself that I thought he deserved to know because he was my father and because some things are worth saying out loud even when they are not accusations and even when they are too late to change anything and even when the person you are saying them to will not entirely understand. He was quiet for a long time after I said it. Then he said he had not known he was teaching me anything. I said I knew. I said that was the thing about lessons that come from modeling rather than instruction, they do not feel like lessons until they are already in you. He said he was sorry if he had made things harder. He did not say it easily. I could hear what it cost him. I told him it was okay. I told him I had figured it out. He said good. We talked about other things for the rest of the call and at the end he said he loved me and I said it back and we hung up and I sat with the call for a while feeling something I did not have a name for and eventually decided was just love, plain and complicated and sufficient. My list has 11 lines through it now. I did not get back what I gave away in most of those relationships. I did not expect to. What I got was the knowledge that I had finally said the things that had needed saying, even when they were overdue, even when they landed in ways I could not control, even when the response was 4 words or no words or a woman in another city who had spent years believing she was too much. My therapist asked me at our last session what the hardest part had been. I said the hardest part was accepting that most of the apologies would not fix anything. That the point was not repair. That sometimes the only thing an apology can do is tell the truth about what happened so that the truth stops living exclusively inside you. She said that was exactly right. She said sometimes that is enough. I am still deciding if I agree. I think I am getting closer. I am not asking if I did the right thing. I think I did. I am asking if any of you have done something similar, gone back to old damage and tried to account for it even when accounting for it was no longer required, and whether it did what you hoped it would do, or something different, or nothing at all. Because I think the answer is probably different for everyone and I am genuinely curious about the shape it takes when it is not mine.